Welcome back to another episode of Ideas to Human Better. I am your host, Eva Payne, and today we are chatting about integration. Now, this is a big topic in the world of psychedelics, and since I run retreats incorporating psychedelics, I find really cool people in the world, and I came across Erin Davis. Erin is a licensed clinical social worker and is really getting into this whole space of integration, and not just with psychedelics, but just in life in general. How do we integrate in our experiences? And how does that help us to become more of what we do desire and what we do want and who we authentically are at our core? So I'm excited to introduce Erin to you so you can hear a little bit more about all of these beautiful things and all of these topics around integration. So with that, welcome, Erin Davis, to Ideas to Human Better. Let me move you over into the spotlight corner. How are
Thank
you?
you. I'm doing well. I'm really excited to be here and appreciate the offer to talk about this with you. Integration is super important, something I love. So I'm excited to be here.
I love it. I'm so grateful for you. And this has been a minute in the formulation, right? We've been trying to figure out like how to make this happen. So finally today is the day and I'm so excited. So I appreciate your time and commitment to this space and really helping humans to figure out how do we do this better here? You know, what are we doing here and how do we do it better? That's what I'm in the business of trying to figure out. So first let's start off. Tell me a little bit about yourself and the listeners and viewers out there. Who are you? How did you get into the space that you're in right now? And then we'll dive into some questions. We'll see what comes up. So
Totally. Yeah, will do. Erin Davis, that's my name. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, as you said. I do therapy. So that's what I use my license for. I'm a therapist who owns my own private practice. I'm based in Portland, Oregon, but I do offer virtual therapy so I can serve any clients in the state of Oregon where I'm licensed. And I'm specializing in preparation and integration of psychedelic experiences of all sorts, not just one psychedelic medicine, but it's something I'm really passionate about. I've worked with a lot of clients on it. I've had my own experiences of having to integrate, not having to, I guess I don't have to, but of integrating psychedelic experiences of my own that have really changed my life. So I talk to anybody I can talk to. Honestly, the reason I'm on this show is because I talk to anybody who will listen about how psychedelics have changed my life. And I met a person that knows you at a real estate event of all places and wouldn't shut up about my experience. And so I'm here. But yeah, so I guess background wise, I grew up in Oregon. I started in social work in 2007 after I graduated college, and I've just kind of stayed on the course since. I've done a lot of agency work, but now own my own practice. It's called Better Being. So I'm a year into owning my own practice, and I'm loving it. Never go back.
Yeah. How's that process been for you? I know for a lot of people coming out of the matrix, coming out of the systems, that say we have to do it this way can be really frightening for people. How has that been for you? This transition of really like taking back your power and doing it your way.
Oh man, it's been a journey, and surprisingly, I would say it hasn't been a very long journey. I didn't really start thinking differently, I'll put it, I guess, like using psychedelics at all. And I've only used them like very intentionally and like spiritually, medicinally, however you want to put it, since 2019, I think is when I started, those experiences for myself. And I would chalk it up like my new view of life and how to live and how I want to live is all due to my ex who introduced me to them, who I'm still really good friends with. And kind of she was a little farther down on her journey than I was. And she really showed me, and the medicine did as well, like a new way to live. It's been really cool. I went from doing like agency work, which I really loved. I did that for, a lot of years, but I was at one agency for almost 8 years before I left. And I really did like it there. But with all of my growth, me seeing her live her life in like a very different way than I was seeing everybody else live, this like capitalistic, like working for the weekends, working for retirement, working for just working to live. That's not what I do anymore. And I got really tired of it because of my experiences with medicines and seeing her live that way. So now the journey has been like, I left there, I went to group practice. It gave me a little bit more freedom. And then I still wanted even more freedom, to really just try things on my own. And honestly, owning my own business has been a spiritual practice in and of itself. I think I've learned a lot. I've healed a lot. I'm still working on all that. It's definitely in process. But yeah, now I work. I don't really consider things like work and play. I just consider things life now, or at least I try to as much as I can. Um, but I hold sessions for clients. I'm only doing things that make me money, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then 4 days a week I do what I want. I have a podcast that I'm working on. It's not like everything's just fun. I own a duplex that requires some of my time as well, but um, yeah, I get to kind of do what I want with my life, and it's so great.
I love it. And is that what you mean by a new way to live? That she showed
Yeah,
you a new way to live? Just
definitely.
what is that? I mean, I know you kind of just said it, but like what for someone out there who picked up on that and is
Hmm.
thinking now, like, what does that mean? What's the old way and what's the new way? How would you
Yeah.
explain that to someone?
Yeah, I think I'd say the old way for me, and I think it's probably how a lot of people do tend to live, is like I was saying, like, right, like working for the weekend and working for vacations, and the fact that like vacations even exist. Like, what do I need a vacation from? Why are we all like vacation time? And I'm looking forward to it. And like, not that we can't be excited to travel or have times where we're doing other things than producing to make money. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think language is really important. And I think the language of using, I'm looking forward to this vacation. I need a weekend. Thank goodness for this holiday. Like even like on like Instagram, like the Friday, like that stuff really, it started bothering me. And I think it started bothering me because I started realizing that that was a part of that was the matrix, quote unquote, the
Mhm.
thing that was keeping all of us down and in a space that is just about producing and not about being. And that's why my practice is called Better Being, because I something I took from one of my medicine experiences is we're beings, we're not doings, right? And I think living differently is about living every moment of my life, and every moment of my life is my life, which sounds really redundant, but that was a really big key for me. And it did lead me to this point, medicine work, all the insights I've got, what I'm talking about now, to living in a way where I'm not on a day I'm holding sessions, I feel just typically, I mean, it's not perfect. I haven't arrived anywhere, but typically I'm feeling just as good, happy, pleasant, and ideally as present in my life as I am when I have a day when I'm not holding sessions or producing something that makes me
Mhm,
money.
mhm.
So yeah, I think that's the old way is I'm working to live and for retirement and for vacations and for holidays and weekends. And now I'm just living, at least trying to live every day, as though it's all of my life. I'm not trying to escape something.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's how I try to live too. I call that
Hmm.
living in flow, like trying
Yes,
to
I love
find that
it.
flow, right? Like,
Yes.
what is your flow? What is your gift to bring to the world? What need are
Hmm.
you here to fill that fills you up? So your doing this just becomes you showing up. Like that's it, right? You're like, oh, I get to
Hmm.
talk to someone today and help them.
Hmm.
Okay, like
Yeah.
it's not. Oh man,
Hmm.
gotta and when it does start to feel like that, that's when I think you gotta, like, go, "Okay, what needs to shift? Maybe I
Hmm.
need to switch it up a little bit. Maybe my focus. Maybe I'm working too much or not enough, or I don't know what it might be." My question for you is,
Yes.
what is your vision for your clients then? If you have this way of being now
Mm-hmm.
and seeing the world through this new lens because this plant medicines have helped you with that and also just your own evolution,
Hmm.
do you have a vision for your clients? Is that something that therapists have? Like, do you have like a goal for them? Like, I don't
Yeah.
even know if that's a real thing, but I'm kind of just assuming like there's some like
Yeah.
goal to get them to or something. I don't know.
Interesting. I wouldn't say there's a goal that I'm working on getting my clients to. because it is so individual, every person's in a different place in their journey. So what typically happens with my clients, and how I
Yeah.
view therapy is, I do feel like I've been given the gift of, I don't know if it's therapy or being a therapist or how, I don't know, healer, whatever word works for you. I'm a therapist, so I'll just use that.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I have this gift of being able to meet clients where they're at, see where they're at, see where they think they're at, and then help them get to where they actually want to be. Because
Mm,
I think a lot of us have those experiences and come from experiences of, right, we start pretty unconscious and we grow and we get conditioned, and then we grow up and have experiences, live life, and slowly, most of us anyway, like become more and more conscious. And so I think me being able to see where they're at and help them get to where they want to be, is really a cool experience. So my goal is not a goal for me. It's honestly, I'm extrapolating from everything we're doing together about what they want for themselves. And my goal is for them to achieve that, whatever it is.
mm,
Um, and it is tricky because sometimes, I do have to lay down where I'm at in my journey. And although my experiences do help clients, right? If I share, sporadically and thoughtfully, I do share about my own experiences at times. And those can be helpful for people, but my journey is not anyone else's journey
yeah.
either. So
Yeah.
it's a
It's true.
balance.
It is a balance, right? It's like, what beautiful work though, that you
Mm,
get to sit there and really look at someone like, who are you? What's going on in there? Where do you think you're at? Where do you want to go? What's possible for you?
hmm. It's a
So let's talk
privilege
about, that's what I say too. It is a privilege. That's what I feel
for
like when people
sure.
come to the retreat. I'm like, you're entrusting me with your soul or your
Mm-hmm.
essence or your
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is.
Your
That is,
life path. I don't know,
yeah,
lots of
like
things.
I
Yeah.
feel like I'm a little ripple in that
Mm-hmm.
in that. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I've seen, like I put on a pretty good retreat. I mean, I've been in this
Yeah.
space for a long, long time. I know I can bring any group of people together. I don't know, it's just something I'm able to do. But one of the things that I've noticed in doing these retreats, like it's great to take people through a journey and to touch these healing
Mm,
modalities, but then it
mhm,
is the integration. And when I was at the psychedelic
mhm.
science conference, there was a gentleman that I met who is engaged to one of my old neighbors from junior or like middle school, junior high, yeah.
Yeah.
And he just came up and he's like, "Hey, I'm so and so, and I know so and so." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't talked to that person in forever."
Wow.
But the interesting thing that he said, he heard a speaker, someone out of Johns Hopkins, and I'm not going to know the name off the top of my head. It was a woman who said that you have 3 days after, maybe specifically psilocybin, but maybe other
Mm,
psychedelics, where you
mhm.
have that so much neuroplasticity, like you're able to
Mm,
really shift things.
yeah.
And then for up to like 21 days or like that kind of month period where things are still pliable,
Mhm,
and I knew integration was important. It isn't my wheel
mhm.
well. I wanna make sure that people who
Mm,
come to retreat are connected to people like you, so they have that
mhm.
support
Yeah.
moving forward. I don't feel like I need to kind of be the person who serves everyone, but knowing that there's this window of time where you are really able to shift things, to do things, like your
Yeah,
brain is open and
yeah.
ready. I thought was so incredibly fascinating to me, and I thought there's an opportunity here for real change to happen within this time frame if people
Yeah.
take the integration piece seriously, like really seriously. Like it's not about the journey. It's not about what happens on the journey, how your journey
Mm,
was, what came through on the journey. All that stuff is great, but now they go back to their everyday lives. They have this great experience and this connection and community and retreat, and then they go back and they're like, and here's my job that I don't like to do. I'm the salesperson at
mhm,
XYZ. I still have this bad relationship. I still have whatever. So
mhm,
where would you even start with someone
mhm.
who is in that place? They've just had some powerful experience, right? Maybe it's psychedelics or maybe it's something else. They've hiked the Grand Canyon or
Hmm, sure.
they did something that was courageous,
Mhm.
and now they are going to do something with that. Where do you even start with someone on that integration path?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I think, well, it all starts with what their experience was on the journey. I mean, I would, if someone's coming to me saying, I just had this experience with psychedelics, maybe it's psilocybin, whatever, I'd want a lot of information about what their experiences were, what they saw, what they felt, how that relates to their life background, whatever. I mean, that's the place I would have to start, because you said
Yeah,
it's not about the journey, and that's almost true. I would say it's not only about the journey. Like, you have to have, like, something I love about work, doing this work, specializing in preparation and integration. And I don't think you need to have both. Integration, if you're going to do anything, integration, I would, recommend
yeah,
as
yeah.
more key. Um, but without the journey, we wouldn't be integrating all these beautiful lessons
True,
or
true.
potential changes that could come from it. And why I love it so much is because what plant medicines do, or psychedelics, not all of them are plant medicines, but what plant medicines and psychedelics do that I can't is get into someone's, like you just said, brain plasticity, biochemistry, their biological,
Yep,
biochemical makeup. I'm not someone's subconscious, right? And I don't have, in therapy and talk therapy and traditional talk therapy, I don't have access like medicine does to all of those like neural pathways and everything. So I really, have a lot of respect for the journey, of course. Like, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. But of course, integration with what I'm doing, I'd want to know about the journey because it is very important. And that's where all of these other ripples, connection points can come. So what do I do after that point? After I know someone's experience, it's really like it's just what I was talking about with when I am just doing talk therapy, even. It's, what am I hearing about what this person experienced and what they really want to bring into their life from that experience. And I don't really ask if it's possible. That's not really a question for me. That's not really something I like to question in my own life, even, because I think that's going to bring up a lot of limiting beliefs. But we would go into like the how is this possible? That's a much more expansive question. And I wouldn't necessarily ask them that straight up. Of course, I'm thinking about all this internally as I'm working with someone. But I know, like, for instance, I worked with a woman a while back, um, through COVID, so it's been a while. And she decided that she wanted to go have an ayahuasca journey experience. So I worked with her leading up to that experience, and we had been working for months and months and months. I don't know, probably 6 months on her conflicted. It was like a head butted, I don't even know, like rock and a hard place relationship with finishing her PhD. She actually had gotten all the way up to the point where all she had left to do was write her dissertation. I think it's called the last step,
mhm,
the
yep,
paper, the research part. And she just couldn't get herself to do it. We tried everything together in talk therapy, and the longer we talked about it, the more I got the sense that she just didn't really care about getting her PhD, even though she had done all of the school. It was a big
yep,
ego. Like, I'm not saying it was just an ego thing, but there was some of that
yeah,
involved.
sure.
And by the time that she went and did her experience and then came back, she had decided that she was not going to pursue her PhD anymore. And that wasn't because I wanted her to quit. Did I want her to quit? I had no stake in the game. I didn't care if she quit or didn't. Like, in a it doesn't mean anything for my life way. But she decided to quit, and she was so much happier, and that took a lot of bravery, and we worked through it. And
Mm,
we worked together for several months after that, a long time after that, on integrating not just that. There was other lessons too, but that was probably one of the bigger, braver things I've ever seen anyone walk away from a psychedelic experience with from my
yeah.
work in the medicine field.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
definitely. When you've gone that far in a program and you've done that much schooling, and to just be
hmm
like, "Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do it.
hmm
I'm not." I mean, it's still a big another year of your life writing that dissertation. That's
oh
and
yeah,
all the
she still had a lot
research.
left. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a big chunk of stuff, but that's it's interesting because, like, well, why are you doing it to begin with? I mean, is it for the status, or like, do you need this for something, some bigger goal in your life? Like,
Yeah.
is it just because you think it would be cool? Like, for what? Like, do you care about the research that you're actually doing? Do you
hmm
want to do that research? I could see where there'd be so many questions. And isn't that
Yeah.
interesting, these life transitions that happen for us? I noticed that with
mm
most of the people who come to these retreats are they're in a transition, whether it's becoming an empty nester, or they've been in their career for 30 years, are ready for something different, or they're getting a divorce or whatever. They're finishing school. I've had people who went back to school as adults and are now finishing and stepping into something new, and it's being able to have this experience and then decide, okay, what now? Like, who am I going to be in this new space, the being part of it, right? Where does someone even start with that? Where would you start with someone if they knew, like, I mean, I went through a divorce and I just thought, who the heck am I? There's something that happens when all your identities are like stripped away and you're
Totally.
nothing. Like, you just are like,
The
I'm
ego death.
nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, then building that back up in some healthy way, or at least, I don't know. What are your thoughts around all of that?
Around building up after having been stripped.
Yeah, yeah. Of like when you go through these transitions, I mean, I think that's part of
Mhm.
integrating, like,
Mhm.
I'm no longer this wife. I'm no
Mhm.
longer these titles. I don't go to this
Yep.
church anymore. I don't have this religion. I don't like these things that I held so true to who I am. And people would say, "Who are you?" Married to this person. I live here. I
Mhm.
have this
Totally.
identity. And
Yeah.
now something in life, that consciousness, that opening up, whether it's
Mhm.
medicine or just some experience, like for me going through divorce,
Mhm.
you become like nothing, like a child again, and now you get to go, okay, now what? I just felt like I kept saying I'm a college student with no major. I
Mhm.
don't a darn clue what I'm doing, who I am,
Totally.
where I'm going. It's like that's when someone like you would be really good in my life, and
Yeah.
others, right? Like a guidepost or something. So what
Yeah.
how do you help people through that? Or what thoughts do you have around these transitions that we go through? I'm sure you've been through your own. You're kind of given this identity, this sort of
Mhm.
way of showing up in the world, and then you're
Mhm.
like, no, yeah, that doesn't work. And
Mhm.
then deciding, choosing a different path. What
Yeah.
what do you have to say about any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with, like, getting help, like, and not that everyone can do what they want, of course, but whether you're having, like, wanting a psychedelic integration, like, support experience with a therapist or a coach or someone else you trust that's in the community, or whatever, I just think having, like you said, a guidepost, I mean, that's good language, I like that, but I think it's my I mean, I think if you're doing at least the psychedelic, having a change in your life, having identity crisis, whatever you want to call it, because of a psychedelic experience, it is very beneficial. It's very helpful. I know I've experienced benefit in my life. I've seen it in my clients' lives that do this as well. That having a therapist that specializes in integration work, especially, is useful in coordinating that kind of re-entry back into regular quote unquote life. I know that in my own journey that when I've had my experience with ayahuasca, that I had a therapist at the time. I love therapy. I go to therapy regularly, but my therapist at the time did not specialize in integration work. She was somewhat familiar with psychedelics, maybe had some of her own experiences with psilocybin. I'm not really sure. I didn't ask her really specifically about it, but I know that leaving that experience, I had the privilege of being a therapist, and I think being a therapist is a really spiritual experience, and I learn just as much from my clients as I hope that they do from me. Um, so I was lucky enough to have that in my life to be able to kind of quasi integrate through that. And I had people in my life as well, like friends that had experiences with ayahuasca that I was also to bounce ideas off of. But I think it would have been really beneficial looking back to have someone who had had their own experiences with plant medicines, psychedelics, and had been in the practice of also supporting people in a clinical sense with integration after that experience. Not that I didn't benefit. I definitely did, but
So what
yeah,
makes it different? What would you say makes it different? I mean, I can make up things,
sure.
but why what is it about the psychedelic experience and having someone help you preparation? I mean, I could
Hmm.
answer this, but I'm curious what
Mhm.
you're going to say.
Mhm.
Preparation, 'cause we talked a little bit about that. You've mentioned it a
Mhm.
couple times now.
Mhm.
What does that look like? But then also the integration after, and why is it different than someone who maybe couldn't just talk to you about integrating in any experience,
Mhm.
integrating in the divorce,
Mhm. Mhm.
integrating in a death,
Mhm.
integrating in, like, what is it about the psychedelic experience that takes someone who understands that process?
Mhm.
Okay, so there it is. So those are the
Yeah.
two pieces, preparation and then the integration piece with someone who understands the space.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with shared language. That's a big one that sticks out to me that comes to mind is being able to essentially have someone, especially thinking about the preparation end of things, not really hold your hand, but I know that the clients I've worked with before going to like and doing psychedelic or having psychedelic journeys, that when I get the opportunity to do preparation work with them, I notice that they feel a bigger sense of ease going into those experiences. And I do think it helps them feel more open and be more open to the experience because they have a little bit more knowledge, it feels like to them anyway. I mean, mostly people get typically like go and it's still something very unique and something they couldn't have ultimately 100% prepared for, of course, but they go in just feeling a little bit more comfortable because they've talked to me who's had not only worked with a lot of other people doing that exact thing, doing this preparation work, but also my own experiences. So I can answer a lot of questions. I remember I worked with one person who was on the more anxious side of things, just how she was, and she was going to an ayahuasca ceremony, and I was able, like, her anxiety kind of what's the word, showed up in a way that was like, well, what about this thing, and what do I pack, and what do I bring, and because it was a multiple day experience, and just even being able to answer those questions for her, I think satiated some of those anxieties so that she didn't it wasn't, that wasn't the focus, and that's not
Yeah.
maybe actually what she was really anxious about, although that could have been part, I mean, I think it was part of it, but I think in general it was just anxiety about this new experience. So we were able to like move through that without getting hung up on the little details because I could provide her the information she needed about the little details.
Mm,
As far as integration goes, again, shared language, that's for both ends of this thing. But I just, from my own experience, I'll extrapolate that I think not having someone that specialized in that, had a niche in it, understood it, or had their own lived experience in it. I mean, I ended therapy shortly after because I felt, this is actually really, I'm glad I'm talking about this. I ended therapy with that therapist shortly after my experience with ayahuasca because I felt so incredibly good. My experience was very positive. I mean, it was a very hard experience, but the outcome was very positive. I felt like a whole new person. It was really cool. Um, but because I didn't have a therapist that had a knowledge base or experience base in psychedelic integration, she wasn't able to dig in with me even through the positive of like, how can we make this last? And what
mm,
else is in there? And how can we prepare you for when it doesn't keep feeling super, super, super great?
yep,
And
yep,
I was like, I'm cured. I didn't think I was like done with therapy forever and I never would need another therapist again and all was well forever. But I definitely would say that my body, it felt like that. And I think it would have been really helpful to have someone just be like, this will end. That's normal. What do you want to take with you? Like, let's keep talking about what you got from that and let's keep digging. Like, and it could have been positive digging. Not all therapy is hard work and sad and hard and
yeah,
whatnot, like especially after a positive like psychedelic experience, it can be really fun to find those gems that are still lingering around afterwards. And I just didn't have a therapist that could do that with me, so I ended therapy feeling like I was good for a really long time, and that wasn't entirely untrue, but that would have been useful, I think. And
yeah,
what makes the difference too, I think.
for sure. I think definitely. I mean, if you have a therapist who's not down, then you definitely need a different therapist, right? Because I've had
Mhm.
people who have come through the retreat and they're like, I told my therapist and they were
Oh,
just
yeah.
not excited about me doing this. I'm like, well, then that therapist is probably not going to be able to work with you. And then
Mhm.
I've had other people who the therapists are like, please go, just go, because
That's
they
me.
want their job to be easier, right? Like in a way, like the things that you
Mhm.
talk about. This is what I feel like.
Mhm.
It's like the thing that therapists and counselors and coaches and whoever out there, if I was coaching for like a year in my life and maybe
Mhm.
a little more than that. And I just thought, how do therapists do this? I mean, I only had a few people that I worked with,
Yeah.
but it was like this, it was like a skipping record every week.
Yep.
And I thought, oh my gosh. And you know, and I know what needs to happen here, but like the actual movement, they can't embody it. That's what I say. Like you know,
Yeah.
you need to leave that relationship or leave that job
Mhm.
or do the,
Mhm.
set up that boundary or
Yeah.
whatever the thing is that's going to make your life more improved, hopefully, right? But they
Mhm.
cannot shift. It's
Mhm.
so hard for them. And
Mhm.
that's what the medicine I think does so beautifully, at least psilocybin, right? It allows you to now have this moment of time where you can really shift and start to think differently and embody what you have been sitting in therapy for a year or 10 talking about, like,
Exactly.
yeah. So having someone who's like, "Oh my gosh, you are ready to go.
Mhm.
Okay, what's in there? What wants to come out? Who are
Mhm.
you? What wants to be supported?" I
Yeah.
could definitely see how that would be really amazing. Okay, I have two different questions. The first one I have for you is on the preparation side.
Mhm.
Is there something for someone out there who maybe is thinking about going and doing
Mm.
whatever, and they don't have a therapist, or they do, but the therapist doesn't know, or whatever the situation is?
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
1, 2, 3 things would you tell someone prior to going into a psychedelic journey? What are some preparation questions, things to
Mm.
ponder, work to do? What does that maybe look like? Especially if they're doing it on their own and maybe didn't have someone like you that they could
Mm.
be exchanging information with.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really good one. I would say number 1 that comes to mind for preparation is I will always say is what's your intention? That's a good question to ask yourself. What do you intend to to get from this experience? And I use the word intention really, really specifically and intentionally, because I kind of view intentions with psychedelics as a guide. It is a guidepost. It's like our little tether to the earth, our grounding point. That even if we don't get, quote unquote, get what we intended to out of the experience, it can help us. If we have this grounding point, we can let go and experience all the other things that the medicine wants us to, with a little, maybe less fear, a little more openness, whatever that may be. If we have this idea of, if it gets hard, it gets scary, it gets a little different than we wanted it to be or thought it would be, if we at least have something to remember, oh yeah, I'm doing this because I really want to heal. I really want to
Yeah.
understand XYZ, fill in the blank with whatever the intention might be. That can be our kind of our grounding and pushing point to continue to let the medicine work as it wants to within our system, even when it gets a little bit hard.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. What else would I say? If there's anything else, let me think. Preparation. I'd say if you've never had a psychedelic experience and you're looking to get to have one, a bigger one, especially like if you're, I know a lot of people microdose psilocybin, microdose
Mhm.
LSD. Those are, I wouldn't, I don't, I like microdosing. I have nothing, I enjoy it. But for bigger experiences, I'd say maybe do some research. Think of also maybe know your family history. I know for a lot of people, like drug induced, I'm going to use the word drug in this sense, but like drug induced psychosis is a thing. So knowing your family history as
Mhm.
much as you can, if that's a risk, you can talk to a doctor. I'd also recommend that for preparation if you're unsure or scared about,
Yep.
negative side effects with medications, mental health concerns. that's where also a therapist could come in handy. You know, they can't go into like the medical side of things if you're on, you know, prescription medications, but there are certain medications that really don't go with certain psychedelics, and can be even toxic to death. So you really should, I'd encourage people in preparation to be consulting with some sort of medical professional. Um, let me think if there's a third thing. Preparation. Yeah, I think those are the two big ones.
How about this one? How about this? How do people decide which medicine to work with? What would you say to them if they were like, look, I hear all this stuff about psychedelics. Okay, psilocybin, ayahuasca, cambo, blah, ibogaine, whatever. I don't know.
Mhm.
What do you say to people? MDMA, LSD. There's like all this
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
out there,
there
right?
is.
How would you, I mean, that's a preparation thing. Like, how do I
Sure.
even know what to do? Like, I've never done anything. Some people tell me that. I've never
Mm,
done anything.
mhm.
Or I've done once when I was 20,
Yeah, that's a
blah,
common
blah,
one.
blah. Something happened.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's like, how do what would people take into consideration when deciding what kind of medicine to work with? They know they need a shift, they got to get things moving in there. How
Mhm.
would you coach someone or help someone with that aspect?
Yeah, I think I would have a lot of questions about what they wanted out of the experience, how long they like the maximum amount of time they want an experience to
Mhm.
go for, because certain medicines you don't really get to choose how long they go. They just are going to go. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into that, but I think the most like user friendly starter medicine would be psilocybin, and I would recommend that people are, you know, if people I'd recommend going with a source that can measure the psilocybin for you and tell you how to take it for the specific experience you want.
Mm.
I think psilocybin's a really user friendly entry point. But if you're wanting a like psilocybin, a bigger experience that could last anywhere from like 4 to 8 hours at most. I mean, you're probably kind of petering out at 6 or 7 hours in that scenario. But also maybe depending on the healing you want to get out of it. I mean, psilocybin is. I kind of think about the different medicines in terms of like ratios of work versus play. So psilocybin to me has like a flow of work and play. I use like a little roller coaster hands as like an analogy of like now we're gonna like go into it, and now we're gonna see how beautiful things are, and now we're gonna go and do it again, and I kind
Yep.
of see it like that. MDMA is more of a heart medicine, so it is really pleasant typically. And so if you want like a more emotional, heart opening experience, I'd go for that. Really, it depends on what you're looking for, right? Like I hear ayahuasca, people talk about ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is mostly work. Not that there isn't pleasantness to it, but it is a lot of
Yeah. Hence
hard,
why I
hard
haven't
work.
done it. Too much
It's
work. I'm like, I don't
it's
want
a
to be sick for 3 nights in a row. I don't know. I'm like, I'm not. Is the payout worth it? In the end, like, I'm not sure. Like,
I mean, I would say so, but that's for each person to decide on their own, of course.
yeah.
I would say psilocybin is maybe depending on what your experience is. I've also hear people compare these medicines in terms of like the equivalent of time it would take to get to that point in therapy, right? So in talk therapy, like ayahuasca is anywhere from like 5 to 10 years of therapy in a few, a weekend experience, depending on not this isn't a guarantee, but it's just like a rough estimate. I would say psilocybin is anywhere from like 6 months to a few years, depending on again the experience, what you're looking for, how much you take, all of that.
Mhm.
LSD, I don't really have a comparison for LSD. LSD could be anything. LSD is its own very unique experience. I would say it also is pretty user friendly, but it's going to be a little bit. I feel like my LSD experiences have been a little bit less therapeutic, although enlightening, but less therapeutic. So it depends on what you're going for. Those are my kind of like brief synopsises and
Yeah, yeah.
comparisons of
No,
all of
it's
them. But
good. It's
yeah,
good. I appreciate the like the like overview of it.
yeah,
Um, okay, I got a question for you then. So I have had two experiences with 5-MeO DMT. Do you know much about that one?
I've heard of it, but I don't have a lot of knowledge about it.
Okay.
No.
So let me I'll just you smoke it
Mhm.
It's like, this little crystal off of a toad,
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah.
it's you breathe it in really slow for like 20 seconds, and
Mm.
then you hold your breath, and the longer you hold your breath, the deeper you go, and then
Wow.
they lay you back, and the whole experience is like 20 minutes. And
Okay.
for and they it's like I can't speak to anyone else's experience, and most people don't really remember a lot of their experience, which to me
Hmm.
seems like, why do you do it if you don't really remember it? I happen to remember my experiences, but
Mhm.
as someone who works with integration,
Mhm.
and I've pondered this, and I have my own like reasoning now that I've come up with, but I'm curious.
Mhm.
So my second experience, I'll just give you a brief synopsis.
Mhm.
Um, I'm fully coherent. Like most people aren't even eyes are closed. They're having some
Sure.
experience and they wake up and they're back, right? And
Mhm.
you're back. Like you can go drive. You're at baseline
Sure.
after
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes of this thing. And so I was sitting up looking at the woman who leads this church, who offers this as a sacrament. And I could see us in like a temple, which I don't get visuals on psilocybin. And I
Hmm.
was like, we're in this stone temple is what it looks like.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
see her in what I can only describe as her highest form. And I just was like, I don't want to be afraid to come back here, because I was so afraid after my first experience, because the takeoff is just so much. I wrote down in
Sure.
my journal, psilocybin is a baby step. So I love that you said it's a good entry point, because psilocybin is an entry point compared to some
Agreed.
of these psychedelics, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, but the crazy thing was when I come back into my body, and this happened with both experiences, and I don't really know how to explain besides coming back, because I'm not, I don't
Mhm.
go anywhere. I'm here, right? I'm
Mhm.
talking to you like I am talking to her like I am you. But
Mhm.
there was this immense amount of grief, like grief for humanity, grief for
Mm.
w- like our systems, the planet. Like in this space, it felt pure and love and whooleness
Mm.
and complete, and there was
Mm.
nothing to do. It was
Totally.
just about being there, right? And then
Mhm.
now whoosh, I'm back in my body and I'm just bawling my eyes out, because I'm like, "Oh, that's right." Like this human experience. And I'm a
Mhm.
generally a very positive, happy person, and I sit back from something like that and I think, what is the point of that? Like, what is the point of I can
Interesting.
make
Yeah.
up stuff, right? Like, Eva, this gets you really excited about doing the work and helping people to feel
Mm.
more of that joy. And yeah, there is a lot. This world is a crazy hot mess. Like, there's a lot of work
Mhm.
to be done. But
Mhm.
how do you integrate in that? What do you do with that? Like when you just feel this, and I've had people who come out of even psilocybin experiences and the next day they feel heavier. It's not this
Mm.
light, like, we, oh
Mm.
my gosh, life is beautiful and everything's going to be fine. It's like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, now what?
Hmm.
How do you help someone through that?
Would you say that your now what was because you had a beautiful experience and then you came back to your humanness? Or what was the now what for you in that experience you just described?
Um, what do I do with this information? Like, why show me this beautiful place? Why have this moment of like, oh, this is how it could be.
Mhm.
And then like, let me plummet you back into the world of hot mess. Like, let me just throw you back in there. Like, good luck. Like, all right, thanks.
I
Thanks for
mean,
that.
my initial reaction to that is it's a strong reaction, but my
Yeah.
initial response and reaction to that is like, I don't know, did you actually leave the beautiful place? Like, why is that not a part of what exists right now in your life at any given moment that you can tap into at any given moment that exists within grief and terribleness and humanness at the same time as perfection and beauty and completeness? And you can't have one without the other. Your human experience would be incomplete without suffering and is also not void of perfection and completeness. I don't know. I think maybe you got a glimpse of what's true instead of what's not here, but I
Mm,
don't know.
that's cool. That's a cool perspective. Yeah.
that's something I
Can
would
I
say.
let me just give you this, like, here we go. We're just chatting, but my first experience with it, I cursed a lot when I was doing the
Mhm,
takeoff part because I
mhm,
apparently, I don't know, I don't remember that part. I just remember like all
mhm,
these fractals and then volume, and I must have been
mhm,
I was with like 25 people in this ceremony. And apparently at the top of my lungs cursing, which is not something you generally do. And then finally I'm looking at my hands going, what is happening? What is happening? What is happening? And I look up and I am fully coherent in this
mhm,
beautiful space
mhm,
that I keep hearing the word avatar, 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 the veil, the veil. And I see everyone in the room glowing gold. And then I see
mhm,
all these other spirits in the room. And
mhm,
they're all like this looking at me. And they're all saying, she knows. She knows. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what's real. This is what's real. Like this
mhm,
spirit world is around us all the freaking time. We
mhm,
just don't see it. We don't perceive it. And again, it was that wholeness, that beauty. There was something about that space that just felt really pure. I don't
mhm.
know, maybe that's a word for it. And then again, coming back into my body and feeling nauseous and like, and I even said coming back in, oh my gosh, this world is such a shit show. Like I said it out loud because I could feel like the heaviness, like of
Mm.
the veil is the only way that I could describe it. And I'm telling you what, Erin, I think about this experience every day. And it happened a little over a year ago. I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, what is that? And I often think, can we coexist? Is this around us all the time? And it's such an out there experience that it could have just been my brain making this up. I'm totally down for
I
that
doubt it. But
that being a thing. Like I don't know.
sure.
But it's like that's when I just go like, what this is the integration piece that I think, what do I do with that? What do I do what do I, in this human experience? What do I do with that other than ponder this experience every day and think, how do I bring this world and this world closer together? So it is something experienced every day, like you said. What if that is the not the normal? What word did you use? Way of being.
I would say the, like, I don't know what I said, but I would say that that's maybe the, like, the
Like,
birthright way of being, like, we can tap
mm,
into presence. But I think your experience, like, you're right, like, you said bring these worlds together, like, there's a potential again, this is like
yeah, I get it. Just
some
go with me here.
this
Just
is
go.
coming download, whatever, I don't know.
I'm down. I'm
But,
down.
like, it's interesting you said bring these worlds together, like, what if the belief that the worlds are not already together is the thing that's feeling icky and human and not like this all sucks? I mean, I come from the perspective, one of my first baby Aaron unconscious journey, psychedelic journey, like first one of my first insights, realizations, eye-opening whatever's
Yeah.
was that perception is reality. And this is why I think so many people that are conservatively religious of any sort, any of the religions that people are die hard about. Oh, hold on, I just lost my thought. Is hold on, I
Perception
just
is
lost my thought.
reality.
Oh yes, perception's reality. That they so much fear that this heaven and hell that they're creating hell on earth, that hell doesn't exist unless we make it hell. So in relating that to your experience, like your perception that it already isn't that beautiful and complete right now could be the thing that's making this feel worse.
Mhm.
I was recently reading, I don't even know if it's in this book, but I'm reading The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Great book, documentary. I think it was in this book. It might have also been a TikTok, who knows? But somewhere in my recent consciousness, I've ingested this idea that the pursuit of happiness is in itself a negative experience, and the acceptance of a negative experience is a positive, in and of itself, a positive experience. And I feel like it all is like, I've said this is like the fourth time I've said this today. I've done therapy all day today, so that's really another synchronicity moment, I guess, of how
Yeah.
things come together. But right, like your experience that like this isn't good enough, this is negative. And I'm not saying life isn't hard. We don't have to like be
Yeah.
blind
Yeah.
and just everything is all sunshine and rainbows, but like how is everything perfect right now? See, that's the positive question. How is everything, maybe it's not even perfect, how is everything beautiful and complete and just as it should be right now? Instead of why isn't it this beautiful, complete thing? Those are two sides of the same coin, whatever, two different questions that change
Yep.
everything, right?
It's
I don't
so
know.
true.
What do you think about that? I mean, have you thought about
I
your
totally
experience
get
this
it.
way?
I I generally am a pretty positive person, happy person. I look for the good. My acronym for
Yeah.
love is live open, value everything. So like trying to find
Ooh.
value in all of our
Mhm.
experiences, like all the stuff. And like so my personal experience of life is I mean, I've had hard things, but like it's
Yeah.
pretty good, right? But when
Mhm.
I just look out there and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, our school systems. Oh my gosh, our political system. Oh my gosh, our food system, our healthcare system, our da 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 da." It's
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
I don't I wish I was smart enough or there was 1,000 of me who could go and change those things, right? Like how do we evolve them or how do we just create something new that better serves humans? So like if we took the kid and said not you need to go learn these subjects
Mhm. Mhm.
and get A's in them, we say, "Who are you? What do you want to create in this world? What are your skills and talents and gifts?" Like I just see a totally different way of like really being a human,
Totally.
in the
I
world.
agree.
And so, but like that feels like such a big ship to steer and change. And I'm like, I know that's not my job.
Exactly.
That's not my thing to do. I just need to maybe
Exactly.
get the person who can do that to the retreat and then pass them on to you. And then like that person can go and change the thing or create the new thing or whatever it is. So um I see that
Yeah.
it feels like we've been tipped into the darkness. Like we're kind of always in this balance of like
Mhm.
wherever, but I feel like we've just been tipped in for a little bit too long. And I'm like, can we just 51% joy is like what I
Mhm.
say. Like it's
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
That some things are hard. I get that being in this material physical world is there's going to be suffering,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
naturally. I was talking to my friend and we had lunch
Mhm.
or sort of a lunch and, she says, "Well, we need suffering, like, that's helps us," kind of like what you said, right?
Mhm.
But I said, "But don't you think there's plenty, like, just simply being a human, you're going to experience death, you're going to experience sickness, you're going to experience being let down or whatever, but maybe you experience a separation from someone or something that you
Mhm.
love, right? So there's enough of things that are already just innately built into being in this material world. Why do we have to compound it with so much other stuff, greed and
Mhm.
the bottom line and like my way is better than your way instead of just like this this wholeness. That's what that space felt like. And it felt like it's so far away from where we are and maybe that can never be the norm. I don't know, maybe it
Mhm.
can, but it felt very real. Like
Mhm.
literally I'm seeing spirits going
Mhm. Mhm.
and they're telepathically talking to me right now.
Mhm.
What is
Mhm.
happening? What is this? What is this space? And what is this? And what do I do with this information now besides try to like listen to physicists and people talking about, quantum stuff that is way beyond me that I'm like, is this real? Like, is this really exist all around us? And can we really see it and experience it? And if so, why? What's it for? Is that what
Mhm.
creativity is? Is that what inspires us? This
Yeah.
kind of like something outside of us. I don't know.
It's
This is all
beautiful. I
stuff that
mean,
I'm this has been a year of integration of me
yeah,
sitting there
sounds
thinking
like it.
like, what's this for? And what do I do with it? Like, great, you had this experience, but how does that translate into my everyday real life? And I think that's what ultimately what integration is, right? Like, why do we take that experience, however it happened, whatever came up, and what do we do with it
Mhm.
in when you wake up at 6 a.m. and before you go
Mhm.
to bed at 9 p.m. or whatever? And how
Yeah.
do you show up as a better human for yourself and maybe for others along the way with it?
And that's what you have control over. And I think we're both doing exactly what are meant to be doing right now in the world with
Mm,
whatever we're doing. But I think I deeply, deeply believe that all of us we're doing the work of healing ourselves, of becoming healthy, of waking up. will
Mhm.
change the world. Like, I don't have to go out and solve world hunger and sex trafficking and
Yeah.
whatever else, the food,
Yep.
whatever, climate change. Like, I don't have to, that's not, I don't have to be blind that it's happening. I don't have to contribute, or I can do my best to, not contribute, whatever, to all of those things or support all of those things in ways I can. But it is easy to get bogged down in, if I'm focused on all of these world problems, guess what I'm not doing and not focused on? My
Yep.
healing and what I do actually have control and influence over, and what my purpose is, and how I
Mhm.
can serve the universe in the best possible way by being my most hopeful, full, complete, suffering, hard, self-loving self. And that's maybe what your experience was too, of what you saw. It's like, it almost sounds like, potentially, I don't know, but like it it can be distracting to focus on all the suffering in the whole world, that
Yes.
it can make us lose sight, and also like skirt responsibility for all the things that are happening in our lives and all the things that we can do for
Mhm.
ourselves and the people around us. Me healing me is a radical act of self, not only self-love, but of like universal healing. And so you healing you and offering the healing and your purpose to the world is a radical act of universal healing. And maybe we're not at completeness, but I would hope your goal isn't for that exact world, when the focus then turns to, but there's all this suffering, so that's not possible. Because that just sounds, that's a loop, right? Like, well,
Yeah.
then I'm not, then there's no point, and then what can I even do? And there's nothing I can do, right? And that can
Yeah,
go
that
down
can
a
take
dark
you
path.
down. Right, right.
But
That's
more like,
yeah, I can see that with people though, right? Where it's like
mhm,
you get such a perspective that you really see like this really is
mhm,
a hot mess. But then
mhm,
being able to come back to, hence why integration is so important. Well, what can you do? Right? What
mhm,
you can only control you at the end of the
mhm,
day. And even then, sometimes I think we're like barely hanging on, able to even do that because
mhm,
outside
totally.
influences and the inputs that are coming in, we're like giving away our thoughts to
Mhm,
whatever social media and other things that want to take up that space and then
mhm,
determine our emotions, right? So
mhm,
it's like taking back our thoughts and
mhm,
taking back our emotions and getting to choose how I respond in this moment to whatever is in front of me right now.
mhm,
What
mhm.
can I control? And this is
Yeah.
what I can do. This is what I can do right now. I can offer this support for humanity or
Mhm,
whatever humans come my way, just like you, right? You can offer
mhm,
whatever support for the humans that find you, who feel called to work with you, who want
mhm.
that support going into a journey, who
Yeah.
want that support after. And we have to, I keep my fingers crossed that that's enough. Like because what else is there? There's not, I can't do more,
It's
and I think
always enough.
yeah, yeah, it's got to be enough, right?
It's always enough.
Yeah. That's one of the things I definitely felt coming back in from the first journey was that whatever these entities are, whatever that thing was that I can't even almost remember like what they look like at
Mhm,
this point. It just felt like a
mhm,
glowing person, um,
mhm.
but was like, they're just like, oh my gosh, like in awe, in wonder that we are doing it.
That's
That
so cool.
they know how incredibly challenging it's like watching someone climb El Capitan with their bare hands, and you're
I have
going like,
chills. I
"How
have
does
chills.
someone do that?" Yeah,
That's so cool.
that's what I think that's what they're looking at, like, "Oh gosh, just going back, okay."
Oh my
Like,
gosh, this reminds me really quick, this
yeah,
reminds me of a
please,
video,
please,
this
please.
video clip I just saw of, like, I don't know who was talking, probably someone of reputable reputation, but they were saying like, spirit world, whatever you believe in, other side beings, like, we are on this earth and we feel like we're in elementary school, us humans, like,
Yeah,
we're like, what am I even doing? What's the purpose? What's the point? What's even like, right? We're
yeah,
freaking lost. We get
yeah,
here and
yeah.
what's even happening? And so these
I
guys were
feel that
talking
way
about it,
often.
and it was really cool perspective because these guys were like, you only come, like, whatever you want to believe about reincarnation
Yeah.
or whatever, but I just thought it was beautiful and relates. You only come to Earth. We only, quote unquote, choose to come to Earth. This entity of my being, your being, all of us, because this is master class right here. And I thought it was such a cool perspective. Like, this isn't, we're not in elementary school as much as we feel like it. Like, we came here blind because we're in master class somewhere else
Wow.
in the space. And I thought that just reminded me of what you said. It was
Yeah.
because we
Isn't
feel lost.
and that's it. That's the perspective, that the change that we can have, right?
Mm,
Like, that's it right there when you come out of a psychedelic experience and you
mm,
see, oh my gosh, we really are figuring this out. Like, whatever that looks like. We are in the master
healing.
class. We are doing our best, and that's enough. Like, just
Mm-hmm.
doing our best. That's what I got. Like, just
Mm-hmm.
choosing to breathe and move in your day and just be here is enough. So anything good that
After
you
that,
do, like, holy
totally.
smokes, like,
Yeah.
you're an Olympian, you're a gold medal, like, wow,
Totally.
you're helping people. Wow, you created that thing. Wow, you
Mm-hmm.
loved on that person when you're going through all your stuff and you were able to share some light and love. Like, oh my gosh, to them, it's just like, wow, they're
Mm-hmm.
doing it. They're doing it. And we're here like, how do we do this better? This isn't good enough. Like,
I
we're
suck. Totally. Yeah. And that's, yeah, I think just the beautiful thing about being a healer is I feel like it's a master class being a therapist a little bit, extra master or coach or, these
yeah.
types of healing professions, not just a therapist. So
No,
it's really
yeah,
cool.
please. Please, you are in it. Like, you're in the business of transformation,
Mm,
like, really helping people to transform. And I love that you're stepping into this space and working with different plant medicines and
mm-hmm,
entheogens and helping people to take that journey, because I have often said to people, it's like the earth is saying, "Here, humans, you ready? You
mm-hmm.
ready to evolve? You ready to heal? Like, I got you. I've got you."
Yeah.
Like, let's just we need like a fast forward button into
Mm-hmm,
that space.
mm-hmm.
And this is what it is. We can sit in therapy for the 5-10 years. We can do the EMDR. We can do the breath work. We can do all the yoga, the meditation. All those things are amazing and great. And that's how I
Yeah,
did my healing. I didn't use plant medicine
totally.
when I got divorced. I just went through the process.
Mm-hmm,
But then when I was coaching the people and seeing the patterns and the loopingness, and I thought, oh my gosh, there's got to be a better way. And
mm-hmm,
that's when, like, in my world, psilocybin, psilocybin, psilocybin. I'm like, are
mm-hmm,
you serious? I don't know
mm-hmm.
where to get this. I don't know anything about this. Like,
Totally.
universe, are you sure? I was
That's
Mormon
so
for
funny.
16 years. Like,
Wow.
are you
Yeah.
sure I'm supposed to be in this space?
That's amazing.
Um, but yeah, when you start to follow your own flow, that desire inside of you to heal and help and serve in whatever way, whether it's creating something or showing up for others or whatever it might be for you,
Mm-hmm.
it's miraculous. Like, we can make heaven on earth, right? This can be that
Definitely.
space, that space
Definitely.
for us. So thank you for doing this work that you're doing and for
Yeah,
being,
thank you as well. You're doing
yeah.
it too, so you're
Thanks.
welcome.
I'm figuring it out every day. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just
Mhm.
trusting my intuition, following as much of the science as I can,
Yeah,
talking with
yeah.
many people as I can, and just frankly, your own experiences, right? Like, don't you become a better therapist the more people that you work with? You're like, oh,
Yes.
I've seen this before.
Yes.
Oh, here's this. Oh, okay. I
Mhm.
made this mistake this time. I won't do that again. You learn as you go, right? Because
Mhm.
there's only so much that you can learn in school.
Oh, yeah.
It's life
Yes.
doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
So thank you for being a pioneer in this space of psychedelic integration and preparation. I think it's so important that people have that support and that there are
Mhm.
people who are really excited about being in this space
Oh,
and
totally.
really helping to support people on that takeoff. And what do you do when you
Mhm.
come back down into this realm? You're like, oh yeah, that's right. Now I got to make some choices.
Mhm.
So they
Definitely.
having someone to help you figure out what's already in there. Like I say to people, you are your own guru.
Definitely. Agreed.
You just got to, we just need sometimes someone to help you open a door or ask the right question. That's why you say language is so important, right?
I'm a
It's
mirror. I'll show you who you are. Yeah,
beautiful. What a beautiful process and a gift that you have.
thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Any other final thoughts on anything we've talked about? Anything like lingering that you're like, oh, I want to say that, or I thought about this?
I
Anything?
did forget in my intro to tell everybody that I'm a queer non-binary person. So I know, I don't know, people might
Yeah.
watch a video,
Yeah.
but I forgot to say that at the beginning. So surprise ending.
Surprise. Surprise.
That's all I can think of, though. I think we covered a lot of good stuff today.
Yeah, we did. We did. Thank you so much for your time. And Erin, how can people find you?
Oh, yeah.
Where can people get in touch with you? If
Hmm.
they're looking, if they're wanting to, do they have to be in Oregon? Like, do you coach outside of that, or is Oregon like the place because of the licensing and all the stuff?
Totally. That's a great question. So, getting a hold of me question. I have my website. You can contact me through there. It's www.betterbeingtherapist.org, or my email, erin.better.being@gmail. I also have a Instagram profile, Better Being Therapist. Lots of ways to get a hold of me. Whichever one you enjoy, go for it. As far as like location question, I can only provide therapy in the state of Oregon at this time, but I can work with anyone who is located anywhere in the state because I only offer virtual therapy. I also do consulting. That's something I am newly getting into. But if you have a company, an individual, whatever you want to like talk about related either to this or queerness or anything like that, I do all sorts of different types of consulting, trainings, those types of things. I love doing that stuff. I haven't dipped my toe in the coaching arena yet, but if you're interested in talking with me about anything, I'm open to wherever the universe leads me. So if you're hearing me, you're liking what I'm saying, you want to work with me in any capacity, just get a hold of me. Let's figure it out. I'm a very open person, much like you seem to be, Eva. So,
Yeah, yeah. Yay. I love it. Yes. I've had many therapists who have said that they have the therapy practice because of all the rules and regulations around
hmm
like how you're allowed to show up and what you're allowed to
hmm
say. And then when they start working with psychedelics or people, in this space,
hmm
they have to put on that coaching hat. So
yeah,
it's just so it,
yeah,
like, okay, I am no longer in this role. I am here as a consultant. I'm here
yeah,
as
yeah, yes,
coach or
yeah,
whatever. So
yeah,
we can just kind of talk and I still
yeah,
have all the wisdom and knowledge, but I'm not sitting here,
yeah,
doing the
exactly.
therapy thing, right?
Yeah.
Like in the system, the way that it's set up right now. Cause like,
hmm Yeah.
I just always wonder that about therapists. Like, why don't they tell me about you? Who are you? Like,
hmm
I want to hear about your experiences. I want
Totally.
to connect. I don't want to sit here and just feel like I just rambled for an hour
Yeah.
and you were like, interesting. Well, what do you think that means? I'm like, can you just please tell me what I need to do? Like, I know you
Well,
see it.
I will say, as a therapist, I don't operate like that. I do a lot of like I do measure it, but I do use a lot of personal stories in my therapy, and I don't
Thank
just sit.
you. I'm
So
so grateful for that because I don't
yeah,
know why, at least the therapist that I've seen, it's very like,
button up. That's not me.
yeah, and I just am
No.
like, "What? Who are you in there? Why are you even in this line of work? Like, what
Yeah.
happened in your life? Where like, I wanna know the person because I feel
Mhm.
like that then I wanna hear your thoughts. Like, I don't have to pick up what you're putting down, but put something down here because even though I say, like, we're our own guru and all the answers
Mhm.
are inside of us, sometimes it's really hard to find, you
Yeah.
know? You're like
Totally.
you need someone else to look in and
Yes.
see what you have the blinders up around, like you're not able to see things in yourself. So to have someone else be able to kind of point that out to you is helpful.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing your work the way that you do and for being
Yeah.
relatable and
Definitely.
open to people and where they're at in this process of becoming a better human and
Mhm.
being better. So I
Love it.
appreciate you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. You as well. Thank you so much.
Yes. Okay. Don't go anywhere. Let me take you out. Erin Davis, everyone. Thank you so much for being here on another episode of Ideas to Human Better and listening to us talk about integration and psychedelics and just what they're able to do for us, the possibility of where these medicines can help us go, I think are so incredible and important and worth exploring in a safe way. So thank you for your time today. I appreciate you. As always, be kind to yourself. And until next time, have a beautiful, wonderful day.